computer. All right. All right. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna really polish your you're gonna start to polish your essay. Now, I want to emphasize here, and you're also gonna work with a partner. Your job is not necessarily to perfect the essay now, to to correct all the spelling and everything. It's to further refine your thinking. And you're gonna have a chance to turn it into me after today, between now and July 19th, which is Sunday. You have a whole week. All right. And in that time, my plan is to give you individualized feedback. Hey, Chern. Now, this is where the students grow the most, right? You guys have asked me, hey, can you help me with this particular way that I'm going to structure it? And it's not just you care about sentences, you care about your writing, how it comes across, and becoming better as a writer. And so this week has been a little bit crazy because I've been preparing for England. And so I haven't really had the time. But the other thing you want to keep in mind here is if you're looking for that extra layer of feedback, you want to turn in your work by the deadline. You know that there's a time when something is due. It's due usually about 3 hours before the session, right? 3 or 4 hours. That gives me enough time to read through what you wrote. Now, that may not have happened perfectly this week, um, just because I fly out tomorrow and it's like I'm way behind. I've got a ton of things to do. So I knew this week would be kind of crazy. So this is by no means typical, but when I come back, I'm going to give you that fine tooth comb, and I'm going to give you guys progress reports too, which are preliminary. They're done preliminarily, but I want to add in what you're doing this week as well to that. Okay. Um, that way, hopefully, you get an idea where you've grown as a writer. And all right, so today, um, so congratulations on completing 6 weeks here. I know it's gone by quickly or slowly, depending on your perspective. And so your goal, like I mentioned today, is to strengthen your thinking and to learn to become more concise in your writing. Okay. Um, that doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of times that just happens one sentence at a time where you realize, I think I'm starting to get it now. I think I'm starting to understand. So have any of you guys in here, do any of you feel like you've grown? You've started to um, close that gap between your thinking and your writing. You have turn? Okay. Anyone else? Has anyone else felt like, no, I'm getting better? Hosanna, great. Lyomi, and then Alina. What are your thoughts? Yes? Okay, that's great. Um, so you know what? The more I can give you guys practice with working with each other, I know we haven't done a lot of that, but it's not just, you know how I've asked you the question? What do you mean by this sentence, Alina? What are you trying to say there? Well, that is pretty much like the main core of how I believe you get better is through that feedback. Not just that, but just me also going in and saying, hey, I'm having trouble with this sentence. This is why, right? This is confusing. What are you trying to say here? Um, the more you get that in your brain, it'll help you when you're not with the tutoring students. You're not with me. You're just kind of on your own. And that's what's helped me become a more clear writer. Because trust me, I was probably one of the worst. The difference was I had all these ideas and I just put them in. Like my paragraphs were so long. It's like there was a whole forest And my teacher had to like cut these things down. She had to ask me things. And if you may feel like, well, I thought I was going to learn about colons and commas and things like that. But you know what? There's a time and place for that. But really, I wanted to get you to the place where you were learning to generate ideas first and you were making the mistakes. You needed to make those mistakes and expand your writing. Then we can talk about those things. But those, you know, there's only so much time. Um, Now, for some of that, you can do that other homework, the writing miniature lessons. Some of those actually address those specific um, grammar um, concepts, right? And if you really feel that you're in need of that, then I have usually assigned that specifically to students based upon what they needed, right? Like Joe Blow, right? You have a lot of run-on sentences here. I want you to do these assignments, right? Okay, so let's look at where your writing is. Let's locate it first. Somebody has put, okay, chat. That's fine. All right, let's look in this open session document. And what we're going to do, like I said, I'm going to give you guys a template for how to work with a partner. And really, all it is pretty much about you doing what I usually do with students. It's like you're going to start to ask the questions of each other, right? Um, okay, so we I'm not going to display the mentor essay because I feel like you guys have a good idea in your mind what a typical paragraph looks like in the open session document, the one that I wrote, the one that I color coded. Um, but what I want to do for a couple minutes is ask you specifically. Well, let's do this first. I'd like to spend a few minutes on each of your writing. Okay. But before I do that, I want to open it up. Who's like really dying for me to look at a particular paragraph that you have, um, a sentence, an idea, maybe a section in your essay? It's okay if you're not specific on that at the moment, because we're going to delve into some of that anyway. So let's look here. Okay, so let's look at the open session document here. So Lyomi, I saw earlier that you placed your homework into the open session document. And that was up here. Okay. Oh, and lo and behold, Hosanna as well, and Alina. Good job there. So hopefully this is a little bit easier for you. And I've even done it for next homework. And believe it or not, it's kind of like a final project, right? And believe me, this is where you're going to get like even more specific feedback from me. Okay. But so that is ready for you for next time. So if you're going to start the homework tonight or tomorrow, you know exactly where it goes, right? So I made it very plain. All right, so let's take a look here. I don't have my timer with me, so let's spend about 5 minutes, no, 3 or 4 minutes here. So Wyoming, let's start with yours since I noticed you did yours like for today. Being drafted into, so is there a section in here that you would like us to look at for me? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually model for you. Um, think of a sentence, think of a paragraph that you want me to fix, right? Like it was my writing. Like, how would I fix this paragraph? Is there an area here that you would like me to focus on?
Not really.
Okay. Why don't we take a look at your introduction here? Um, and then we'll look at the transitions. That's what I want to think about next, because your transitions, I think you're going to need some here. Um, and you might have them already. So being drafted into a national basketball team sure comes with many perks, especially financial perks. But the question is, how well do these basketballers ensure they manage this newly found financial, what they do, sustain it? Okay, in the book, and actually, I would say this is um, article weighed down by too much cash. By the way, you don't want to capitalize this completely like that, but again, I don't want to get too much into the mechanics right now. By Rick Riley, he used. Now, I want you guys to make note of this. Uses. You need to change it to the present tense. Okay, even though we know that he wrote it years ago, right? Um, we talk about it like it's in the present. He uses irony to teach the reader how to manage their finances in order to avoid regulation. And he uses the experience of NBA players to drive the point home. That sounds like your thesis right there. The author's use of irony forces. So one of the things, Lyomi, what you're going to want to make note of, and guys, really pay attention when I come to your writing, because Lyomi, you're going to need to fix this in the rest of your essay, right? Between now and Sunday. Okay. So I would jot down some notes there, um, make it present tense. Okay. The author tries to teach the reader to be finite. Okay. So then the author's use of irony forces the reader to think critically about the importance of saving their finances. Okay, what I have to ask myself again, the author tries to teach the reader to be financially frugal when he asks the reader to sign with the power of attorney. Um, so you're talking about power of attorney here. So you want to add that, add, I'm going to put this in brackets here. Add power of attorney, main point, main idea here. Just briefly, okay? Then the rest of this paragraph is probably going to be about power of attorney. Okay, I'm going to skip over that for now. In the same way, in paragraph 10, the author uses irony to highlight the point of surrounding yourself with so-called support systems, which can get you bankrupt. Okay, that again needs to go up here next to your thesis, because remember, what color was that, folks? The thesis is green, and the main idea points, they also become the first sentence in each of your body paragraphs. What color is that?
Yellow.
It's yellow. That's right. So this is what I'm talking about here. The main point right there. So this is the introduction paragraph. There's the main point. We're gonna make that yellow. Let's go back to this. Also, okay, and guys, this is called organization here. Your organization is going to be one of the things you look at when you do your homework. Okay. And it's going to be in the document here. Everything's ready for you. That rubric is right here. So here, okay. And development of ideas as well. Okay. Let's keep looking. So that's pretty much I'm gonna be finished here. It looks like this is your conclusion. By using irony to drive home the importance of being financially frugal, the author wrote points that will make the reader critically think about ensuring that they stay out of bankruptcy. Having financial freedom is important, but ensuring it stays that. Yeah, I like this, Lyomi. You're talking about now something that I can use as a reader. You're making my life better by explaining. This is called a call to action, by the way. So you may want to write this down. One of the best conclusions you can write invites the reader to do something useful for them, right? One of the lessons we can learn, right? Use something like that. One of the things we learn, right? Um, Now, Lyomi, you don't really have transitions here. It wouldn't hurt by saying in conclusion. And again, there are in the main folder, and everybody, I hope you're watching this. You have your sentence starters here. Okay. So be sure to use those. Transition words and phrases between paragraphs, right? You have those as well. All right. Okay. Lyomi, has that been helpful to you?
Yeah.
Great. And if it would help you, you can go ahead and color code at least the yellow, the yellows, the greens. Okay. All right. Alina, most people think NBA players stay rich forever. Did you know that 60% of them are broke just 5 years after they retire? In this story, weighed down by too much cash, Rick Riley uses irony. By the way, is there something you'd like me to focus on for you that you think would help you to make this a polished essay between now and Sunday?
Maybe my second body paragraph.
Okay. Okay. People often go bankrupt trying to show others that they are rich. Paragraph 2, the author writes, buy a house the size of Delaware. The author uses exaggerated examples and sarcastic advice, knowing that doing the opposite will keep people financially stable. Vander Holyfield had a huge house with so many rooms that he hadn't even used. Spending money to impress others. Okay, what I would add here, I would in brackets add commentary. Now, you sort of do this in a way. I like your first sentence. People often go bankrupt trying to show others that they're rich, because it talks about you and me. It talks about people in general, and you're making a connection there. I would almost say that, this right here is your topic sentence. Typically, it goes at the beginning of your paragraph here. Now, do you have to move it? Here's the thing. I would say, Alina, you can break the rule. And if you like, I like the flow of this paragraph. Um, what you could do is you could switch these two. You could switch the topic sentence to closer to the beginning. For example, in paragraph 2, the author writes, buy a house the size of Delaware. Vander Holyfield had. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. Um, and I'm going to tell you something right now. I sometimes feel like I've been doing this so long now that when I come across a paragraph, it almost feels like it's missing something here. Can anybody chime in on this? It's not a bad paragraph. It's nicely written, but I feel like it's kind of short. So it just may be a feeling I'm getting that really doesn't mean anything. Um, so let's do a mental checklist, right? You've explained it right here. This is your explanation right here. I think if you did add some commentary, it would make me feel like, okay, I'm with you, right? It keeps. It's not that my mind is wandering. I think it's well written, but it just feels like it's each sentence is carefully constructed, but the paragraph as a whole, it feels like it wants, like, ice cream sundae needs a little, like, cherry on top, something that just makes it go poop, pop. So that's what I would do there. The other thing is I'm curious to what you're thinking too. Like, what do you make of this buy house the size of Delaware? You might just part of your commentary might be to explore like it would be kind of lonely being in a huge house, has so many rooms. And this speaks to the uselessness of having items just because we can buy them. It's like, what do you do with that? You can say so much more about that. So here's the thing. Now that like for you, a big point of growth, Alina, because you're into that advanced category. You're really, I mean, you're doing it so well that I think the next focus for you will be this is good, but is this going to be the difference between a 3 and a 5 on the AP? Right? And how you're going to get that is you're going to talk about remember those questions. What does it say? What does it not say? How does it say it? I want you to throw some of that into your explanation. I want you to say something like, let's consider this word he uses. Um, the image of a room that you've never been to speaks to how useless and pointless this um, purchase of things that you don't need because you're wealthy, right? So you're going to draw out of the text. You're talking about word choice. You're talking about specific imagery. Think about the 48 literary terms. Um, you can talk about irony here. You can say the irony in buying such a house is houses usually are something you need, but he turns it into something you don't need and is actually useless. Like normal people, like my apartment, I hardly have enough space. I'd be so happy for an extra room, right? So that means something to me. So talk about that difference. You can say, most people cannot relate to this, for example. And this shows the absurdity in such a type of purchase. You can even go beyond that and say, and this entire article is filled with these examples. See what I'm doing now? Now I'm going deeper, so I'm analyzing and I'm coming back up to the 30,000-foot view. In other words, really like that microscope. Now I'm expanding it like it's the telescope and I can see the whole horizon. And that is the type of writing that I love to read as a teacher. That the student gets it. They've understood the passage, they've read beneath the surface level, and they just didn't go deep. They showed me why I should care about it. And yeah, so has that been helpful?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And here's the thing, Alina, I want to be careful here. I want you to be careful. Don't do it like this so carefully. And you know what you do? Just explore separately from this. You know what I'm saying? Or just start writing like real quickly and just exploring. And it's gonna make it messier. It's gonna make it less organized, but at least your thinking is so clear. Your writing is very clear to understand. So I know you don't have an issue there, um, that you won't get confused. You'll know what to do. I really trust you on that. You'll know how to clean it up. Okay. Um, you doing okay there, Sharon? I don't see you. That's why I'm asking. Okay, there you are. It's like my screen only shows me 3 students at a time. Is By the way, is this helpful to you guys other than Alina as well? Sharon, notice how it's talking about going beneath the surface, right? It's not just, I don't want her to just talk about the evidence and explain it. And okay, I got to do commentary now because we risk sounding boring. And that's the worst thing, right? You don't want that. You want to enjoy English. You want to enjoy reading. So notice how I try to make it interesting by saying, hey, let's look at this word, So beneath the surface. Hosanna. Let's take a look here. Is there a particular section or element in your writing that you want us to look at? Or section?
I don't really have a section. I don't have
Okay.
like a sentence or anything. I just would like,
Mhm.
I can't see anything wrong with it, but I know there's probably something wrong with it.
All right. What would you do with $1 million? Well, you'd probably say something like buy a new house, get into your dream college, never work again, etc. But what if I told you that this article says the opposite? I'd like you to explain that a little more, right? What if I told you that this article says that you should not try to figure out a way to summarize this? Because I don't think you mean the opposite in the sense that you wouldn't buy a new house or you wouldn't get to a dream college. Isn't the difference here with the overindulgence of these things? Because it doesn't seem like the author's telling us not to do these things. So, what are your thoughts?
Maybe specify like never work again, probably like could stay there, but instead of like get into your dream college, it could be um buy like a bunch of new cars or like buy a new mansion. Like you keep your old house or
Yeah,
something.
right, exactly. Why don't you mention collecting things?
Okay.
But here's the trick. A jet is, well, not people don't collect jets, but it's the same category that this article is talking about. Things that are borderline useful, right? Nothing that he mentions in the article is completely useless. It's just the extent of it and it's the expense of it, right? Collecting things, but things that if you had one of would still be useful. Okay. Does that help? Will you be able to think of stuff that way?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. In the article, Weighed Down by Too Much Cash, the author, Rick Riley, uses irony to teach financial responsible readers with actual real life examples of sports stars wasting money. Yeah, good. Very clear. Um, Riley teaches that wealth without wisdom leads to. Wow. So you could even keep this is such a okay, folks, pay attention to this. What she's doing here, I like. You know how you wrote your thesis, and your thesis was basically just answering a question? The author is teaching us about how to not lose money by being ironic, right? But was that really a juicy and kind of like, was that a big, hairy thesis that somebody would say, oh, I hope you can prove that, right? She's given us here a thesis that says a little bit more than just answering the question. And do you see that, Hosanna? You're making a claim that wealth without wisdom leads to disaster. That's not something that a lot of people, everybody would agree with. So this is a model thesis in my view. But that creates a little problem, not a problem, but it means that in my mind at least, I want the rest of the paper to actually talk about wisdom and to argue for um, to show us examples of um, players who were not wise. So if I were you, what I would do is let me just write a little note here. I think that's a really good organizing idea here. Do you know what I mean by an organizing idea?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And you know what? Here's, guys, really pay attention to this. I've been trying to teach you guys how to write better, right? But it's more difficult to teach how to write um, at such a high level where you're competing with the best students in your school, right? Like, what does that look like? I think this is what it looks like is you don't just write to answer the question. Your angle, your particular thesis says something a little more, right? It's a little more risky. And I like what she's done here. She's taken a little bit of a risk. Okay. So, and how you make this work in your essay is you use that organizing idea, that thesis, and you rewrite certain parts. You don't have to rewrite the whole essay, but when you talk about your evidence, you can say, and here's an example of when a player is very unwise, right? Why is he unwise? Because people will take advantage of him, and unless you do your due diligence and double check your agents and your financial advisors, you're going to lose money. And that, so see how I'm using that idea of wisdom and foolishness, and I'm using it to interpret the evidence. So, make your explanation including was its opposite, the organizing ideas throughout. Does not require a huge revision. Okay. If it works, it works. And at the end of the day, Hosanna, you have to make choices, right? Um, Writers sometimes have to say, you know what? I would love to talk about wisdom, just like Mr. Shaw said, but in the real world, sometimes you don't have the time and you have to just say, you know what? This is still a pretty good essay. It's organized, it's developed. My thesis could be better, but guess what? I'm going to turn it in because, I got to do my math. The author uses irony to teach readers that careless spending leads to losing. There you go. Careless, and then talk about what you have to do is you have to make it very clear to your reader. Don't, I mean, yes, careless spending is along the lines of foolishness. Okay, let's, say foolish. Don't be afraid to use those words though. Right here, careless spending. And here's another cool thing here. If you don't want to disturb that sentence because you like this idea of careless spending, it's very specific. Always like to add additional sentences. There's nothing wrong with that. You can just say, this is one notable example of the foolishness the author is highlighting. You see what I did there? I just added a sentence. All right, let's kind of stop there because I do want to give you guys enough time to be able to work with the partner. I want to give you guys practice with reading a section of your paper with one another. You're going to go into breakout rooms. Um, so um, maybe Alina and Charan, Hosanna and Charan, and then Alina and Lyomi, you two can pair up. So what you're going to do is I've already prepared the questions you're going to ask. So right here, and if just go alphabetically, if your name, the letter of your first name comes first, you can go ahead and read um, part of your paper to your partner. Maybe your introduction, or maybe one of your body paragraphs, maybe your conclusion. It almost doesn't matter. Um, you're just practicing a skill right now. So partner A, yeah, this might be a good one. You can change this if you want, by the way. So let's say Alina is going to read her introduction in body paragraph number 1. Lyomi will just listen, and then Lyomi is going to ask one of these 3 questions, not all 3. Just pick one question. What are you trying to teach your reader? Or which sentence is your strongest evidence? Or which sentence could be clearer or more specific? If helpful, suggest one rewritten sentence that makes the writing clearer. Partner A decides whether or not to use the suggestion, right? And after 5 minutes, switch roles. All right, questions there? Then what you're going to do is you're going to get a chance as a writer, when you guys are both done, to start to implement these changes. Go in the open session document. And of course, when you do the homework, you're going to cut and paste this from your open session document into your homework document, and then work on it in the homework document, turn it in, and then cut and paste it back here. That's kind of tedious, but I kind of don't like that, but it's just like what we're stuck with for now. All right, so let's create some breakout rooms for you guys. Okay, are you guys okay with the pairings? Okay, right. So let's breakout room. And Sharon, if you need to cut and paste something, don't take a lot of time to do that though. You might want to look at a previous page in the open session document, right? So even though yours shows blank right now, go to the one before it, like from the last session. It'll be on the same page, just like up. Okay. So you guys can go to breakout room. Okay, I'm gonna add a room. There we go. All right, jump right in. It's gonna be like at 5 minutes, I'll stop you guys. And then you'll have to switch. So it's gonna be kind of weird, but that's the only way we can kind of keep track of time and have time at the end to go over any questions. Okay, there you go. Join the room. You guys doing okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay. So you should be switched by now already.
we finished.
Wonderful. Okay, sounds good. You can join the main room if you want. It's cool.
Oh,
All right. Thank you.
What are you guys doing?
We finish.
Finish both rounds?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. You can join the main room. Talk to me about how it went. So, Sharon, how did it go with you guys? What was useful?
It was useful because me and my partner we discussed about like what we were trying to teach our reader, and I learned that like her evidence and her commentary were very strong, and also her um, introductory paragraphs too. And I would one suggestion we went through our suggestions too, and I said that we her suggestions. I mean, my suggestion to her was just like in time practice is like make your essay more better. So that was really my suggestion, just like more practice. And she also said stuff to me too. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share? Okay, I would ask the rest of you to share, but what I'd like you to do now is go ahead and I want you to make any notes to yourself. Notes to self. Can I help you, Dad? Hi, sure. Um, any notes to self for what's your game plan between now and Sunday? Um, and now if you already know what your game plan is, it's like, well, duh, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna look at the rubric and all this. But maybe there's a particular thought process that you have that you think will be helpful to you. Or if you're unsure, just start to reflect in your journal. Um, actually, let's do it this way. Why don't you share that in the open session document? That would be even better. So um, let me show you how to do this because I kind of want to see it. Okay, in the open session document, right below what you wrote, right? Just type the word reflection, or let me see. Yeah, reflection. And just start to talk to yourself. Um, I know that sounds a little vague, but it could be this is what really stuck with me today that I'm going to use when I rewrite this. Or, yeah. And it could even be something you need help with. If something's really jumping at you, you can't stop thinking about it. I want to know what that is because maybe I need to provide you a resource for that. Oftentimes, students will ask, well, can you give some sentence starters? Hey, can you give us some transitions? And that's how I created those resources was when students were honestly reflecting and they needed that. So go ahead and do that for the next 3 minutes. Three. Minute and 20. Oh, so Sharon, I don't know if I confused you, but um, you can type this into the open session document.
I can type in the open session document.
You see kind of like where I'm typing reflection. It'll be on page 19, I think. 18, sorry, page 18.
All right.
At the very bottom of what you wrote.
All right.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like your game plan for what you're going to do between now and Sunday. Okay, a few more seconds here, but try to finish up your last sentence here. Um, there may be more that you need to work on that you'd like to explore, and feel free to continue that thought process after we finish here in a couple minutes. I want to be clear on what we're doing going forward here. So, yeah, just another 10 more seconds and I'll ask you to stop typing. Thank you guys. You can stop typing. So, if I were not going to England, I would be giving you time to submit this between now and probably Friday, right? And then on Saturday, I would look at your writing and I would make real comments on stuff, um, very specifically, right? Entire paragraphs. Maybe I would focus on transitions and give you some written feedback there and what I feel you can keep working on to get better. Because that's not going to happen. Um, it'll happen, but it'll take longer because I'm not going to be around until another 10 days. I won't be back until the 24th, which is almost 2 weeks. So I will be communicating to you guys. Your parents are going to get a progress report. I know that sounds really official, but it's just a celebration report or in writing. I'll explain what I've seen you grow in and how you can continue to grow. A lot of growth ahead. Lena, you saw, and Hosanna, right? Your writing is pushing that advanced category, but it's not quite there yet, right? It's really good. In fact, much of what you are doing is advanced, but it's knowing what the difference is between good and advanced, right? So those vocabulary terms are going to be super important. If you really want to take it to the next level, use a couple of those terms. And remember that question. How does this story say it? Not just what does it say, not just what does it not say, what does it imply? How does it say it? What word choice? What language? What choices does the author make? And that's going to take you there to that higher level. Um, so yeah, and then there's going to be 2 weeks at the end of August, sorry, end of July into the beginning of August. I hope you'll join me for that. I'll be talking with your parents. It's just that it's going to be very different. It's not just this type of tutoring. It's what are the secrets? What are the things you should be doing on a regular basis outside of your English class? You already have the tools that I'm going to be talking about. It's going to be how to use those tools, how to develop that mindset, and looking at your schedule as well, if that's what it takes. Um, And if you do that and you really understand what it is um, that's trying to show you, you're going to have everything you need, I believe, um, to really have a super successful year. And hopefully, you guys will continue. Um, I just assume that you guys are going to continue through the fall. And I'll talk to parents. And if you can't, you can't because your schedule or whatever. But so I want to leave that door open to you guys. And I've put some, I'm rewarding you guys for just being part of this right now. So um, I'll talk to parents about that. Okay. All right. So thanks, guys. I appreciate um, each of you. It's been a lot of fun. And I will see you guys, soon, right? You won't hear from me for a couple weeks, but I'll circle back around and I'll start making noise. So, all right, guys, have a good one.
Bye.
Take care. All right, talk to you soon. All right, take care.